Welcome to another mentoring moment with Dr. Mo. I'm Dr. Mo, and in this mentoring moment, we will elevate and enhance your tapping practice by taking a deep dive into crafting powerful and short setup statements. So, this topic is important because it can be very easy to provide a lot of contextual and narrative details in setup statements about the thing you are tapping on as a way to validate your client and, of course, use their exact words. However, you can validate their experience even more by getting a powerful setup statement that will help them process things with a more streamlined approach. So let's start with the basics. In clinical EFT, there are three different things that are classically described as being needed in the setup statement. The first being what happened, usually referring to the aspect. The second, how do you feel about it, refers to the emotion. And third, where do you feel that in your body, or do you feel this in your body, which refers to a somatic expression of either the emotion, the aspect, or both. So you can remember these three things through this acronym, C, S-E-A, S referring to somatic, E referring to emotion, and A referring to aspect. So let's do an example together. Let's say that your client is coming to you because they feel very angry because their arch enemy threw coffee in their face, and now your client feels anger in her stomach. So this is our SEA. We have the somatic being the stomach. She feels the anger in her stomach. We have the E, which is the anger that she feels, and the aspect is the throwing of the coffee in her face. Let's assume that it's a visual aspect that she's remembering. Okay, so this is our goal. Our goal is to work on clearing this specific aspect and its residual somatic and emotional components as well. Okay, so this is sometimes what I see with people learning EFT is that they may be tempted to add a lot of contextual details that the client mentions into the setup statement. And it looks something like this. Even though I was out with my sister and we stopped in a coffee shop and I saw my arch enemy from middle school standing there, and then she snarled at me and then grabbed the coffee, threw it in my face. I feel so angry about it in my stomach. And of course, I accept myself anyways. So as you can see, this is kind of a long-winded approach to clearing the specific things that we wanted, right? The aspect that we wanted to clear was the visual aspect of getting coffee thrown in her face. Okay, and though technically this narrative, this long-winded setup statement does check the boxes of our acronym SEA. We have the somatic, she feels it in her stomach, the emotion of anger, and the aspect of seeing the coffee being thrown in her face. It's quite a long-winded approach, and it has a lot of details. Out with her sister, stopped in a coffee shop, saw my arch enemy from middle school, a lot of these things that aren't quite important for your client to focus in on, they can actually act as a distraction. Okay, so I'd like you to start thinking about setup statements as an arrow and the aspect, the specific aspect that you are trying to clear, as a bullseye. So you only get one arrow to hit the bullseye. You wouldn't want your arrow to be bogged down with decorative things or frilly details that would weigh it down. You would want it to be very streamlined, very light, so it could cut through the air and get to your target seamlessly and as quickly as possible. Okay, so using this kind of target arrow metaphor, we can now begin to refine that setup statement that we had just previously looked at. Okay, so let's refine it a bit further. Even though she threw coffee in my face and I feel so angry in my stomach, I accept myself. Let's ask ourselves, does this check off the 3 things that are important? Does it fulfill the SEA acronym? Somatic, stomach, yes, we mentioned she feels it in her stomach. The emotion, anger, we mentioned feeling anger in her stomach. And of course, we do mention the most crucial part, which is the aspect of seeing the coffee thrown in her face. Perfect. It fulfills SEA a lot more seamlessly than this example here. This one has a lot more contextual details, a lot of frill, a lot of fluff that doesn't necessarily help your client. And oftentimes it can act as deterrence from the main vision, okay? So you may ask, are all of these necessary to have a setup statement? And what I mean by this is, do you have to have S, E, and A in order to have a proper setup statement? And for me personally, I don't think that S, somatic, or E, emotions, are necessary in order to craft a very powerful setup statement. But I do feel that A, or the aspect, is a non-negotiable. It has to be there every single time in your setup statements in order to have something to tap on. Aspects are the building blocks of EFT. They are the things that tell us what happened to us. They are the things that carry that intensity. So if we don't have that, if we don't have the aspects, then we may not have the emotions. Then we may not have the somatic expression of the emotion. The A, or the aspect, is kind of that cascading factor, that determining factor that determines if there is an emotion, what emotion there is, and if there is a somatic expression and what that somatic expression is. Also, some clients may not have access to their emotional bodies. They may not be able to pinpoint if they're feeling an emotion. They may also not be able to pinpoint if they're feeling it in their bodies. However, they usually have memory of something happening to them, something that they saw, something that they tasted, something that they heard, etc. All those sensory aspects. Usually, they have memory of that. So for me, rather than having SEA being the checklist, as long as you have A, you have a solid setup statement, because that is the most important thing to clear. Okay, so for me, you can refine this as, are you tapping on a specific one-time event? Are you focused on a specific aspect of that one-time event? And is the aspect that you are trying to clear in the setup statement? As long as you can answer all of those things and all of those things come out to being yes, then you have the makings of a very powerful setup statement. Now, if you are able to get emotions and get somatic expressions, those are cherries on top. But it's important to note that the emotions and the somatic come from the experience of the aspect. So I do hope that this video has been helpful. That's it for this topic. If you would like to know how to create powerful reminder phrases, do check out my Patreon, as that video is available to those who sign up, as well as it has a host of other mentoring content that might be of interest to you. If you would like more mentoring outside of my Patreon, I do offer one-to-one sessions in mentoring, and you can find that on my website, which is all linked below. But I really hope you have enjoyed this mentoring moment with Dr. Mo. I'm Dr. Mo, and we will talk and tap soon.